It is a tremendous, tremendous Kiddush Shem Shemayim that so many people should gather together. It's incredible. I would like to thank Rabbi Gidon Pagran and Tracy and the Office of the Chief Rabbi for their tremendous attentiveness to detail, and thank Mrs. Jody Kruger as well. I love traveling. I love to see different people, different places, and one of the places that I enjoy traveling to is in Antwerp, in Belgium. There's a great Talmud Chacham there. His name is Rabbi Yehuda Traeger. For a while, he was one of the Rosh Yeshiva there. And one night, I went to visit him, and he told me a very interesting pshat in a Paysach in Tehillim, and this Paysach and his understanding of it will be our theme for this afternoon. All of us know that Perik Kuf Yutes, chapter 119, is the biggest one in all of Tehillim. It has 176 different verses. 176. Now, for some reason, 176 must be very special, but I don't know what it is. If anybody knows, I wish you would figure it out and tell me, because there are 176 blot pages in the biggest Masechta, which is Bava Basra, and 176 psukim in the biggest parsha, which is Nosai. I don't know what's special about 176. But in Perik Kuf Yutes, it goes 8 psukim with Aleph, 8 psukim with Beis, 8 psukim with Gimel, and on and on. And the pasuk that begins with Ches, one of the psukim says like this: David HaMelech says to Hashem, Chashti v'lo hismamoti, I hastened and I didn't delay, Lishmar mitzvaysecha, to do your mitzvahs. So Rav Traeger asked, if it says Chashti, I hastened, that means I didn't delay. Why does it have to say twice? I hastened and I didn't delay to do your mitzvahs. So he said that he once saw in a sefer something very interesting. Let's say in the morning you see a guy running to shul, and you think, whoa, that guy's so excited to go to shul. Of course not. The guy's a lazy good for nothing. He woke up 20 minutes late. That's why he's rushing to shul. Or you see a guy's running to the bus, right? He's trying to make the bus to get to work on time. Oh, he's so excited. No, of course not. He woke up late. That's why he's rushing. So David HaMelech says, Hashem, Chashti, I hastened. Not that I woke up late. V'lo yismamati, I didn't delay. I hastened because I was really interested in doing your mitzvahs. Somebody once told me that the Bava Rabbi said the following thing. Now, I didn't hear him say it, but it's adorable anyway. He said, when the alarm clock goes off 6:45 so that you should get to shul on time, that's the Kol Yaakov. That's the voice of Yaakov. When you put your hand on the snooze alarm to sleep another 25 minutes, that's your Yadayim Yidei Esav. That's the hands of Esav. So in other words, what we want to talk today is about enthusiasm, excitement for mitzvahs, excitement for life, never being burned out. It's so interesting. We just had a session about an hour ago. I moderated an interview between Rabbi Wein and Rabbi Goldstein. And Rabbi Wein mentioned something interesting. I asked him, why are you so driven? You do so many things. He said, no place in the Talmud does it mention anything about retirement. He says, it doesn't say any place a guy should go buy a condo and settle in Florida. It's interesting. Isn't that amazing? In the Talmud, it doesn't talk about retirement. A person is not supposed to be burned out. You accomplish as long as you can in life and to be enthusiastic. As a matter of fact, there's a wonderful sefer. It's written in very easy Hebrew. It's called Orchos Tzadikim, the ways of the righteous. It's a very sacred, holy sefer. Many, many people read it. And in there he writes, Midas Hazrizus, the characteristic of excitement and alacrity. He tachshit l'chol amidos. That is the jewel of any character trait that a person can adapt for himself. He should adapt excitement. V'hi misakenes kulan. That can fix anything. And so I want to share with you a very beautiful personal story that literally had such a deep effect on me. It goes back many, many years when I was a teenager. But I just want to tell you first that if you take a look at the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch, it is incredible how the Tur, who was the first one to codify all the laws, or Achayim, the laws of daily life, of Tefillah, of Shabbos, of Yontif, and then of course Yeridea, the laws of Kashrus and Mila. Even Ezer, the laws of marriage. Choshen Mishpat, the laws of business. So when the Tur sat down to write the first words in the Shulchan Aruch, you could imagine anybody who writes knows that the first few sentences are very important. You want to get people interested and excited, because otherwise after 3 or 4 sentences, if it's boring or it's not exciting, they won't continue. So of all the Mishnayos that he knew, and of all the Psukim that he knew, and of all the Gemaras that he knew, he chose in Avos, Pirkei Avos, Perikei Mishnah Chav Gimel, and it says like this. Yehuda ben Tema Ayman, Yehuda ben Tema says, Hevi az kanomer, be bold like a leopard, kal kanesher, light like an eagle, rotz katzvi, run like a deer, the gibor ka'ari, be strong like a lion, lasois, ritzayin avicha shabashamayim, to do the will of your Father in heaven. In other words, the first words of Shulchan Aruch was be excited, rotz katzvi, run like a deer, gibor ka'ari, be strong like a lion, to do the work of your Father in heaven. So I want to share with you a very personal story. When I was a teenager, to me the greatest thing in the world was summer camp. And in New York and in America, there are many, many different summer camps. I went to a place called Camp Aguda. I lived the whole year for Color War, for baseball in the summer, day and night. It was fabulous. I loved it. And one year, my father says to me around Purim time, he says, this year you're not going to camp. I couldn't believe it. I thought, I couldn't imagine I was being punished. But the first thing I thought of was maybe he couldn't afford it. I said, Pa, how come I can't go to camp? You know I love to camp. I go to camp. He said, you're going something much better. Something that will change your life, will elevate your life. I said, Pa, what's better than camp? He said, I'm sending you to Eretz Yisrael. Now this was in 1964, before the 6-Day War, before everybody was going to Eretz Yisrael to learn. And there was going to be a Knessia Gedola. A Knessia Gedola means there was going to be a big gathering of Agudas Yisrael. And many tzaddikim, rabbonim, rosh hashivas were all going to come to Yerushalayim, and they were going to speak in the Binyanei Ummah. In those days, the Binyanei Ummah was not yet finished. When we came there, they were still, the scaffolding was still there because they were just finishing it at that time. And he said, you will go there, you will listen to the tzaddikim, and after the 4 or 5 day session, I'm going to have you stay there for another month. And I want you to travel throughout Eretz Yisrael. You meet the tzaddikim and you'll go with your tape recorder. If you remember, they had these big, like boom boxes. Nobody had cassettes, reel to reel. Anybody under 20 has no idea what I'm talking about. And so they had these big tape recorders. He said, you will go, you will record, and it'll be a treasure forever. Okay. I go to Eretz Yisrael, and I'm there. I mean, to me, to be in Eretz Yisrael was like such a miracle. I think it was the second time I was ever on a plane. I imagined Eretz Yisrael farmland. You learn the Gemara, and you learn the Chumash, Eretz Yisrael, the days of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I didn't believe it was a modern place with buses and cars and all. And it was a fabulous experience. And I traveled throughout. And, in those days, people in Eretz Yisrael in the 60s didn't have telephones. If you wanted to make a telephone call, if you remember, you had to go to the post office to make an appointment, that you would use their phone, and somehow you had to get a message in New York, and it was always so confusing. That's why, if you notice, I wear 2 watches, you see? Because I'm too confused, 7 hours in front, 7 hours in back. I was always mixed up with that. So, in Eretz Yisrael in those days anyway, so nobody called. I didn't speak to my parents literally for 2 months, but we wrote letters every day. And one day my father writes me a letter and he says, Paysach, I want you to do me a favor. I know you're going around with your tape recorder all over. There's a guy who wakes up people early in the morning for slichas. Could you go 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and record him? I thought, I'm not crazy. 3 o'clock in the morning? Who is this guy? My father writes me, I don't even know if he exists. I heard that there was a guy who used to do it. I made believe I didn't get the letter. I answered every letter except that one. A few days later, I get another letter. He says, maybe the mail is slow or maybe something got lost, but you could do me a favor. There's a guy, I understand, who wakes up people 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's Elul. The Sephardim get up every day in Elul. We as Ashkenazim, we do it just the last week before Rosh Hashanah. But maybe you could catch this guy and record him. All right, listen, he's my father. He paid for the trip. He asked me twice. Okay, I'll try to do it. So I see a fellow who I know, an American fellow who was also there. I said, listen, my father wants me to do it. I'm afraid to walk 3, 4 o'clock in the morning in the streets of Yerushalayim. Again, it was before the Six-Day War, so the border, does anybody remember till where the border was? Who remembers? What was it called, the gate? Mandelbaum Gate, right. Where Miri Yeshiva is today. That was the border. We didn't have the old city in those days. So I'm walking at night with this guy, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, and the voice carries, and all of a sudden in the distance, we hear somebody say, Shtei toif aslichas, Shtei toif, get up for slichas. So I was thinking, that's what my father wants. I could do that. What's the big deal? All right, so we run over, and where the voice is coming from? 2 tall teenage American guys carrying, a chefetz chashud or whatever, like these big boom boxes. The guy didn't know what we want. He was so scared. Was wilted for me? Like, what do you want from me? Like as if we were going to come attack him. I said, Schuldig, excuse me, this is a tape recorder. I didn't even think he knows what it meant. I said, you could say something in here, and it'll record, and it'll play again in America. So he says, so what do you want? I said, I heard that there's somebody who sings a song and wakes up people for slichas. Do you know who that man might be? He looks me up and down. He says, Dosamir, that's me. I said, wow, that's you. Do you mind singing it for me? It'll be so special for my father if I could play this for him, how you wake up people for slichas. He looks again up and down, and he clears his throat, and he says, okay. Now, I am so embarrassed to do this for you, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's so memorable and so special. So you just picture this. It's black at night, dark, hardly any lights. The only lights on the other side of the Yerushalayim, the mountains. You see that Jordanian hotel that was on top of the hill in Mount Olives. We couldn't even get there again because it was before the Six-Day War. And he clears his voice and he goes like this. Now, it's in Yiddish, and I'll translate. And he goes like this. Yisrael am kodesh shteit oif lavoidas aboirei rotz katzvi vegibor koari lasois ritzoin avicha shebashamayim Yisrael am kodesh shteit oif lavoidas aboirei. Then he turns to me and he says, okay? Oh, was that okay? Yisrael am Kodesh. Yisrael, the holy nation. Shteit oif, wake up, lavodas habayre, to serve your Creator. Rotz katzvi, the first words of Shulchan Aruch. Rotz katzvi, run like a deer. Gibor karibi, strong like a lion. Lasois ritzoin avicha shabashamayim, to do the will of your Creator. There was no greater gift in the world that I could give to my father than that tape recording. He listened to it day and night. He loved it. It brought him back years to how Yidden used to get up in Elul. As a matter of fact, I lived in a very big home, 3 stories high, where I'm one of 7 children. And in those days, there were no yeshivas in Queens, so we had to get up early and travel to Brooklyn. So every morning, my mother would be very early, and over the intercom system, she would play Mozart, Beethoven. She loved classical music. But now that we got this, every morning I used to hear, Yisrael Am Kadosh. I woke up like that for 2 years. It was unbelievable. And not only that, that was the winter that Rab Shalom Shradron came to America the first time. And it's a whole long story. It's not for now. But Rab Shalom Shradron came to our home. He was there for 6 months. Again, if you read the Maggid Speaks, you could buy it upstairs at the Kola bookshop. You buy hardcover. Don't be cheap. Not the soft cover. Okay? And you'll see the whole story. But when Rab Shalom was sitting at our table, it was the first time he was in America. My father says to him, Rab Shalom, I want to bring you back to Eretz Yisrael. He said, what do you mean? He says, listen. And he turns on this tape recording. Yisrael Am Kodesh. And Rab Shalom closes his eyes. And soon you could see tears are coming down his cheeks. And then after it finishes, he says, oh, yeah, I remember as a young boy, I was 6, 7 years old. And I lived in the Yerushalayim, the old areas. And this man was a young man. He used to come and sing that every morning in Elul, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I used to hear him. And after he finished, I wrapped myself in my blanket and I went back to sleep. Such a beautiful memory of the Maggid of Yerushalayim. But that's what our goal is. Yisrael Am Kodesh, Rotz Katzvi. We have to run like a deer to be excited about mitzvahs, to be excited about life. Gibor Kari, Lasois, Ritzoin Avicha Shabashamayim. Rav Hutner says a very, very interesting pshat. We know it says in the Torah, Ushemartem es hamatzois. You should watch the matzos. Now, in the Torah, there are no vowels. When I spoke at Rabbi Saxton's shul yesterday and I complimented the boys, the youth boys, who practice the laning, it's very difficult to practice the laning without nakudas, without vowels, to read it in the Torah. But the Gemara tells us that because there are no vowels, there are times when you can read the word a little bit different. And instead of reading it, Ushamartem es hamatzos, you can read it, Ushamartem es hamitzvos. And Rashi tells us something very interesting. Just like you got to be careful that you bake the matzahs within 18 minutes, you got to be quick, make sure it doesn't become chametz. The same thing, you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, don't delay, do it quickly. Kashem she'ein machmitzin es hamatzos, just like you don't delay baking the matzahs, kachein machmitzin es hamitzvos. Don't give up an opportunity to do a mitzvah. Ela imbol yodcha aseyo somiyad. You got an opportunity to do a mitzvah, do it right away. Don't say, I'll get somebody else to do it. Don't say, I'll do it tonight or tomorrow. Now's the time that you want to do it. Now, sometimes a person can overdo it, and I'll give you an example. All of you know that I am a moil. A couple years ago, I get a call from a guy. I don't want to say what neighborhood. It shouldn't be a reflection. And I say to him, good, when is the baby born? And he tells me on Tuesday. I said, okay, we'll do it Tuesday morning. You want to do it in your shul? No, we can't do it in our shul. I said, why not? He says, well, I'm embarrassed. I said, you're embarrassed for your shul? He says, yeah, I'm embarrassed because for my relatives. I said, what's wrong with your shul? He says, we have a matzah minyan. I said, a what? A matzah minyan. We finish in less than 18 minutes. Could you imagine? So he was embarrassed to have it in that shul because the relatives who are coming and say, what kind of davening is this? So we did the bris someplace else. But that's overdoing it. That's a little bit too enthusiastic. But I want to share with you a great story. A great story that happened in Eretz Yisrael, and it could only happen in Eretz Yisrael. Because in Eretz Yisrael, they observe Shemitah. Shemitah is the 7-year cycle when the farmers do not plant and do not seed their fields. And anything that grows in the 7th year has a holiness. It's called Peiros Shvius. Fruit that grows in the 7th year. As the Rambam says, you cannot give it to a Gentile. Only Yidden can eat from that fruit that grew on the fields of Jewish people. It has a certain kedusha. You're not allowed to even throw it out. You have to let it rot out. But you can't throw out any fruit that grew, any peiros that grew in the 7th year. So there was this guy who lived in Mattersdorf in Jerusalem, one of the sections of Jerusalem. And it was now the beginning of the 7th year, and his wife wasn't used to all the halachas yet. It takes a while to get used to it. So this guy had 2 apples in the refrigerator, and he figured when he comes home for lunch, he'll eat them. He comes home, and he sees the apples are missing. So he says to his wife, where are the apples? There were 2 apples here. She said, oh, I just gave it to the Goya who was cleaning. She was on the way home, and she wanted some fruit, so I gave it to her. I said, what are you talking about? You gave Peiros Shvius. You're not allowed to give it to somebody who's not Jewish. She said, I forgot. So what would most of us say? Okay, no, he's going to run after her. He's going to get the apples back. He runs down because he knew that she just left 5 or 10 minutes before. He finds out, no, she already went on the bus. The bus left to the Tachna Merkazit. Okay, so fine, right? So it's too late. Next time we'll be kept. No, he's not going to take the next bus. He's getting a cab. He's getting a taxi. So he's going to find her because he knows she has to take a second bus. He gets to the Tachna Merkazit. He knows which second bus she has to get on. He gets onto the bus. He said, sir, I'm not, traveling today, but there's somebody here on this bus who has something of mine. Please, let me just get it, and then I'll get off the bus. He says, hurry up, because we got to move. He goes back, and he sees the lady. She's carrying a little sakita, a little bag. And he says, where are the apples? Where are the apples? And she says, Alti, don't touch me, don't touch me. Here's the apples. And she gives him back the apples with all the jewelry that she stole that day. She had wanted the apples to cover up the jewelry. She was not planning to come back. She knew where all the jewelry had been hidden. So she figured she can't just walk out with a sakit of jewelry. So she took the 2 apples and covered it. Now, that doesn't mean just because you're going to be excited about mitzvahs, you're going to get all your wife's jewelry back. But the idea is, you see, when somebody is sincere with a mitzvah, that's what could happen. So I want to tell you a great story. And from this great story, I believe that we can make a change in each of our homes, especially the women. Now watch this, a beautiful, beautiful story. This story was told by Rabbi Simcha Kaplan, who was a Rav in Tzfas. He already passed away. But he told over a story that happened when he was a young man. And he learned in the Mir Yeshiva in Mir, in Lithuania, in Poland, wherever it was at that time. And he tells the story that in those days there was no such thing as a dormitory. So people used to stay at people's homes. That's where they had the meals, and then they would come to learn in the yeshiva. So one morning, Friday morning, he hears in the place where he's staying that the husband and the wife, they're in an argument. The wife is saying to the husband, I know you're going out of town, or you're going to the next town to get something for Shabbos. Make sure you come back by 12 o'clock. Make sure you come back, because Shabbos is coming, and I just want you to get the things and make sure you come back in time. Now, this guy, the Bocher, couldn't believe it. Simcha Kaplan said, the guy's a religious guy, the town is not so far, Shabbos is not till 7 o'clock at night. Like, come on, get a life. What are you, carrying on like that? But obviously he didn't say anything to her. But after the husband left, he said to her, ma'am, I hope you don't mind my asking, but why were you so nervous? After all, Shabbos is not till late, and the town is not so far. Your husband is a religious man. Of course he's going to be back before Shabbos. She says, young man, let me tell you a story. And she says, when we were first married, we didn't have children for a long time. And finally, we had this one little boy. And when he was 3 years old, he got very sick. And all the doctors gave up. All the doctors said, it's only a matter of time. He's not going to survive. This was my only child. And I was crying. I said, please, I got to be helped. And they said, look, there's nobody here who can help you in this small town of Mir. Maybe go to Vienna. All the professors are there. That's what they used to call doctors. Go to some of the doctors in Vienna. She said, I went with my little boy to Vienna, and the doctor said the same thing. They gave up. And they said, there's nothing they can do. I was walking in the streets of Vienna. I was on the way back here, and I was crying. And a man comes over to me. I never saw this man before. He says to me, lady, why are you crying? And I said, I shouldn't be crying. I have an einzige kind. I have one child, and he's sick, and all the doctors gave up. He says, lady, why don't you go to the Chavetz Chaim? You're going on the way back to Mir. Stop off in Rodden. You'll see the great tzaddik. Get a blessing from him. She said, he's over 90. Nobody goes to see him anymore. They won't let me in. He said, lady, you got no choice. The doctors gave up. You got to get a bracha. You got to get a blessing from the big tzaddik. So she figured, okay, he's right. So she somehow takes a train and takes a bus. And when she comes into the house of the Chavetz Chaim, they tell her, the Chavetz Chaim is over 90. He can't see anybody anymore. But she was here already. And she starts yelling and screaming, please, this is my only child, and he's so sick. I need a bracha from the tzaddik. And the Chavetz Chaim hears from the back room. And he comes out. He was bent over. He was very short. He says, what's going on here? Who's crying like that? And then, of course, he was out already. So they tell him, here's a lady with a sick child. He tells her to sit down. And she tells him the whole story. Listen what the Chavetz Chaim tells her. Chavetz Chaim tells her, I'm going to tell you two things. And if you do both of these things, I guarantee you that your child is going to be okay. Now, when she told over the story, she said, I thought he was going to tell me to fast 50 days a year, which I would have done anything for my child, and that I should say the whole Tillim every day. And I would have done that also, but that's not what he said. He said, what I want, two things. First of all, that by 12 o'clock, your house should look Shabbosdik. 12 o'clock Friday afternoon, the tablecloth should be on the table. You don't have to put the challah on because it'll spoil, but the tablecloth and the silverware should be there. Or pot, whatever you can put on the table, put it there by 12 o'clock, especially the tablecloth. It should look Shabbosdik already by 12. She said, Rebbe, that's all you want? He said, one more thing. He said, usually when a woman lights candles, so it's Shabbos for her already. But the husband still has a few more minutes. From now on, when you light candles, the whole house is Shabbosdik. Your husband doesn't do any work. Your kids don't do any work. You promise me these two things, that by 12 o'clock your house will look Shabbosdik, then you'll see your baby will be fine. And that your husband doesn't do any malacha, no work after candle lighting in your house. And she says to this boy, Simcha Kraus, you see, my son is alive today. That's exactly what we did. By 12 o'clock, the tablecloth is always on. And my husband doesn't do any malacha, any work after lighting candles, after I light the candles. That's why I wanted my husband to be back in time so the house would look Shabbos-tic. So I was wondering, how did the Chavetz Chaim know this? What was he, a Novi? How did he figure that out? That if she puts on the candles, she puts on the tablecloth early, that the child is going to be well? And I'll tell you what I think it is. It says like this in the Pasuk. The Pasuk tells us, Ushemartem es HaShabbos. You should watch the Shabbos. We all know that means you should be Sabbath observant. You don't drive on Shabbos, you don't turn on the lights on Shabbos. But we know that in the Torah there are many words that have double meanings. The word Ushemartem has another meaning. You know what it means? Remember when Yaakov Avinu heard about the dream of Yosef, and he couldn't wait for it to happen, to come true, that all the brothers would bow down to his beloved son Yosef. What does the Torah tell us? Vayikanu boyechav, the brothers were jealous. Va'aviv, who knows what it says? Shamar es hadavar. He couldn't wait for it to happen. Perhaps that's how the Chavetz Chaim understood the pasuk. Ushemartem es haShabbos. Observe the Shabbos. Be anticipating the Shabbos. Be excited for the Shabbos to come. That's how the Chavetz Chaim knew it. Because he touched the pasuk, Ushemartem es haShabbos. When you anticipate the Shabbos, then the pasuk says, L'dayroisam b'ris olam. It'll be for generations. That means the children and grandchildren will be there. So I want to tell you, you come to my house, all of you, not the same night, but all of you can come. Thursday night in my house, my wife puts on the Shabbos tablecloth. So when the kids come down Friday morning, it's not Friday morning, it's Erev Shabbos. It's a different atmosphere. You come down Friday morning, it's a different atmosphere. Shabbos is coming. And I think from this holy gathering, we should make a Kabbalah from now on. Thursday night or 12 o'clock, the latest Friday afternoon, the Shabbos tablecloth should be on. You walk into the house, Shabbos is coming. There's a different serenity. Any of you can call me any Friday afternoon that we are home. 20 minutes before Shabbos, you'll hear piano being played in the background. It's my wife, she's playing piano. People can't believe, how could a woman play piano before Shabbos? You know why? Because you give the kids a bath Thursday. You don't wait till Friday. How dirty do you think they're going to get? You pick up the laundry and you pick up the shirts and the suits on Thursday. You anticipate the Shabbos. It's amazing. I don't know why men do not know this secret, that Shabbos comes after Friday. Running like Mashigoyim to the last minute. Everybody's running to the shower. Everybody's running home from business. And by the time Friday night, they're dead. They're falling asleep at the table. What kind of Shabbos table is that? It's better to come. You know what I do? You wouldn't believe it. I come home early if I can Friday afternoon. I go to sleep Friday afternoon for a half hour, an hour. Because then Friday night, you're fresh. You can say Advat Torah. You can listen to the kids. You can sing Zmiris. You can entertain guests. Well, you come like a Meshuggah at the last minute before Shabbos and then you're finished. In my humble opinion, no woman should light candles and then go get dressed. That's not how you welcome the Queen of Shabbos. You get dressed first, like you're going to a chasana, or you're getting Shabbos dressed, and then you light the candles. That's the example for children. That's how you anticipate Shabbos. So from now on, let's see if we can put on the tablecloth Thursday night, so that by Friday morning, already the house is beginning to look like Shabbos. You know, but enthusiasm doesn't just plain mean rushing. I want to give you an expression that my dear Rabbi, in a sense, the Maggid of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Shalom Shardron, used to say, and he used to say it in a Sephardic dialect, because this is written by Rabbi Shlomo ibn Gabirol, one of the Spanish philosophers, a great Talmud Chacham who had a difficult life. And he used to say, I'll say it in the Sephardic dialect, and then I'll say it, I was going to say the normal way, but that's not nice, but in the regular way, how an Ashkenazi would say it. But the Sephardim say it, Pri hamehirut hacharata. Pri hamehirus, the fruit of rushing, is regret hacharata. It's not an idea of just rushing. A guy rushes out into the street, he's wanted to, run for Shabbos, chas v'shalom, a car could hit him. That's why this talk is called reflective enthusiasm. You have to reflect on something. How are you going to do the mitzvah? How are you going to get to shul on time? And you think with seichel, and then you do it enthusiastically, not just stam rushing. Rushing doesn't mean anything. A person has to run with his head, not only with his legs. It has to be sensible. You don't just rush into something. It has to be with seichel. So I'll tell you something very interesting. What does it mean to make things exciting, to make things that you anticipate? We just had an interview with Rabbi Wein and Rabbi Goldstein. And Rabbi Goldstein was talking about Rabbi Goldfein, who was the Talmud of Rabbi Gifter. And Rabbi Gifter told many of his Talmidim that when he was a young boy, he would hang up on his bedroom wall pictures of tzaddikim. Pictures of tzaddikim. Rabbi Chaim Oizer, the Sochatchover Rebbe, the Chavetz Chaim, Rabbi Meir Shapiro. And among all those pictures, he put a white sheet, an 8x10 sheet, in a frame. And on that sheet, he wrote 3 words. Why not you? Isn't that amazing? Why not you? So that when he woke up in the morning, he saw all the tzaddikim, and then he saw that sign. Why not you? Now, I once told this over in Camp Monk. It's one of the famous camps in the mountains in Monticello. You would not believe what they did the next year. Every year they had a whole gallery of tzaddikim, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and Rabbi Yashiv, and the Stipler, and Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky. And in the middle, they put a mirror, and underneath it, it says, why not you? Every kid who comes to camp stands there, looks in the mirror, takes a picture of himself in front of all the tzaddikim. Why not you? It's not a bad idea to do at home. I'm a big believer in sports, but don't hang up the sports heroes. I'll tell you where some of them should hang. Not on your kid's living room or basement. I don't care how good they are in rugby and soccer or basketball or whatever you play here. We hang up pictures of tzaddikim right in the middle, put a mirror, and then underneath, why not you? Oh, the kid wakes up in the morning, he's got all these beautiful pictures of tzaddikim. That's a way of inspiring. That's a way of enthusiasm. I'll tell you what does it mean, enthusiasm. You won't believe. As I told you, I'm a Moel. So I remember one time I got a call from a Russian guy. He tells me he doesn't speak such a wonderful English. And he tells me the baby was born on a Wednesday. I told him the bris is supposed to be, Wednesday. He says, Rabbi, I can't do it Wednesday. I got to do it Wednesday night. I said, why are you going to do it Wednesday night? He says, because I work. And, I don't have time during the day. So I said, no, but it's the 8th day. The Torah says it's got to be done in the daytime. He says, finally, I convinced him, okay. I said, how late can we do it? He says, I said, you could do it right before sundown. So sundown that day was about 4:30 in that week. I told him, let's plan the bris for 4 o'clock. Okay. I gave him the list of items, ointment, gauze pads, Pampers, wine, whatever. I thought he understood me. I really thought he understood. I knew he spoke a broken English. Fine. He lives in Manhattan. I live in Queens. 4 o'clock is rush hour time, so I go early. I get off, I park my car, go into the apartment building on the 6th floor. Now, usually when there's a bris at 4 o'clock, there's a lot of people there because people are taking off the latter part of the day. So much noise. I get off the elevator, it's so quiet. So quiet. How can it be quiet? In one of the apartments, there's a bris. You hear the noise. So my first impression is, oh my gosh. And this has happened to every single mile. They change the venue of where it's going to be, and they call all the relatives, and they forget to call the mile. Why? Because the mile is not on the invitation list, right? So I've had places. I come to the shul, nobody's here. What happened? Oh, they moved it to another place. So that was my first impression. I'm going to knock on the door. Nobody's going to be there, and I'm finished because we got, a half hour to sunset. I knock on the door. A Russian lady with a babushka, comes out with a house coat. She says, "Can I help you?" I said, "What do you mean, could you help me? This is Rabbi Krohn. Don't we have a bris here today?" She says, "Speak to my daughter, Natasha. She's on the couch." I come in, "Natasha, don't we have a bris today?" She said, "I told my husband to call you last night. He misunderstood. He thinks it's tomorrow." I said, "Tomorrow? I told him the 8th day is Wednesday. We're supposed to do it today." She said, "Well," I thought she was going to say, "Go home." But she says, "No, he's working out in the gym." I said, "Work? Oh, that's what he meant, work." He said he had to go to work. He didn't mean work. He had to go work out in the gym. So I say to him, I say, "You think we could get him here?" She says, "Call him now. It's 5 after 4 already." I call him up. I say, "Ivan, I'm so sorry. Maybe it's my fault, but, we're supposed to do the bris today." So he says, "Rabbi, how long will it take you to get ready?" I said, 5, 10 minutes. Not even that. He says, okay, I'll come right from the gym, get everything ready, we'll do the bris. I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. So I come running. He comes running in his T-shirt, all geschwitzt like anything, right? I had to give him a yarmulke. And, he washes up, He's the sandik, I'm the moil. The mother is the only one there and the bubby. And we do the bris. We finish 4:25, 5 minutes before Shkia. I said to him, Ivan, listen to me. Everybody's coming tomorrow, right? Don't say a word to anyone. Let them all come. I'm coming back to visit the baby anyway. We'll make a ceremony tomorrow. The next day, I get off the elevator. Tumult, so much noise, so many people. And I set up as if I'm about to do the bris. We bring in the baby. Baruch habo. Everybody's, imagining a bris. And then I put my hands around Ivan. I say, Rabotai, I want to tell you something. There's no bris today. There's only bagels. Let me tell you. You have a friend that even though that he didn't go to a yeshiva, even though he didn't have a religious training, his heart told him that you have to do a mitzvah on time. We did the bris yesterday because yesterday was really the 8th day. But this is a credit to the Jewish soul. He could have delayed it because after all of you came today. But he knew in his heart that when Hashem says you got to do something, you do it right away. And this is a credit to what this Jew is all about, even though he didn't have a yeshiva background. And everybody learned a great lesson that day. Tell you another story you wouldn't believe. I got a call. I'm driving on the Verrazano Bridge. Oh, man, we're running out of time soon. I get a call on the Verrazano Bridge, and my wife calls me. Ezra's on the phone. I say, Ezra, what do you mean? For tomorrow's bris? No, I don't know. You got to cook them right away. She patches me in. I say, Ezra, what's wrong? He says, Rabbi, my baby was yellow, right? So you postponed the bris till tomorrow, but we just came home from the doctor. Not we. My wife came home from the doctor. And the doctor says there's no more yellowness. So don't we have to do the bris today? I said, Ezra, what are you talking about? I'm in Staten Island. You're in Woodmere. There's no way I can get there before sunset. Rabbi, but don't we have to do the bris? I said, yeah. Oh, I said, listen, I'll get you a moil that lives in that town. He'll do it for you. He can be there in 5 minutes. But where are you? He says, I'm in Manhattan. I said, Ezra, you're in Manhattan. How in the world are you going to get there before sunset? It takes an hour to get there. Listen to what he said. I'll never forget this. He said, Rabbi, it's more important that my son should know for the rest of his life that he had the bris on time than it should be that he should know that because of his father, the bris was delayed a full day. You would not believe it. I got the other moil. The only one at the bris was the mother, the grandmother, the baby, and the moil. And I had no guts to ask him who was the sandik, because I think it was the Irish nurse. But you should know that his parents were very angry at him, because the next day everybody came and, there was no baby, no bris, because it had been done already. And I told the parents that they're foolish. They shouldn't be angry at their son. They should be proud because he did the bris on time. That's what a mitzvah is, to do it with enthusiasm. I want to tell you the 3 saddest words in the English language. I should have, I could have, and I would have. If you find that you are saying those words all the time, I should have, I could have, I would have, that means you're not taking advantage of opportunities. I remember when I wrote the book for Art Scroll on Bris Milah, a moil who's already in Gan Eden called me up. He didn't call me from Gan Eden. He called me, when he was still here. I just wanted to be clear, because I'm talking fast, I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. Sometimes people hear things, and because you're talking fast. So I remember I once did a bris, and I said to the father, by tomorrow the dressing is going to fall off. He said, what'd you say is going to fall off? I said, the dressing, sir, nothing more. So anyway, I remember when I wrote this book on Bris Milah, a moil calls me up and he says, I could have written that book, I should have written that book, I would have written that book, except I didn't think about it. So I went back to my mother, because she's the one who taught me writing, and we did the book together. So I said, Ma, you hear what the moil said? He could have done it, he should have done it, he would have done it. She said, don't be silly. Only you could have done it, only you should have done it. You're the only one who could do it, and you did it. That's why she was such a great mother. How much time do we have left? Oy vey, please finish. That's terrible. Okay. So I'll tell you one more thing. This is unbelievable. Anybody who gets this answer gets a free Maggid book. Okay? Listen to this. Unbelievable. The Brisker Rav was once at a Sheva Brachas for his son. And he was in such a good mood. Rav Velva Soloveitchik. And then every song that they sang, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, anything, Vahi B'Shur, any song that you sing about Chasen or Chasen Kala, they finished singing, he would say a Dvar Torah about that song. There was an old man there, Rabbi Edelman, Rab Zev Edelman. He was taka an Edel Mensch, a very big tzaddik. They said, Rab Zev, sing a song for the Chasen and Kala. He was embarrassed. He's not going to sing for the Chasen and Kala. So he decides he's going to sing a song for the Brisker Rov. Yomim al Yemei Melech Toisif. They should be added to the king. And Chazal means that's what you sing when the big tzaddikim of the generation come in. From Chaim Kanievsky would walk in right now. Everybody would stand up and sing Yomim al Yemei Melech Toisif. So now, on the spot, they start singing that for the Brisker Rov. And when they finish, they say, "Nu Rebbe, you got anything on this pasuk?" Now, there's no way he could have known they were going to sing that at Sheva Brachas. So this is what he thought of on the spot. I'm going to ask you the question that he asked. I'll give you his answer. But anybody who gets the answer, one Maggid book, free. He says like this. The pasuk is in Tehillim Samach Aleph Zion. Yomim al Yemei Melech Toisif. They should be added to the king. So the Brisker Rov says there's a machlokes. The Radak brings a machlokes. Is it talking about David or is it talking about Mashiach? Who's the Melech in the pasuk? So the Brisker Rov says Yomim al Yemei Melech Toisif. They should be added to the king. David only lived 70. They should be added. He should have more years. He should live more than 70. But if it's Mashiach, when Mashiach comes, he's going to live forever. So how could you add days to Mashiach? Frek the Brisker Rov. Yomim al Yemei Melech Toisif. How could you add days to eternity? He's going to live forever. Who knows what the teretz is? Yes. What? He's right. He should come earlier. Excellent. Did you ever hear me say this on tape? No, good. Okay, fine. He's right. He should come earlier. That's right. Give him a round of applause. And that's my bracha to all of us. At this great Heilige conclave, Sinai and Daba number 3, the Eibusher should help them because of our enthusiasm and our excitement. Hashem should see all our excitement for mitzvahs and for love for each other. He should bring Mashiach earlier. It should be Yomim Hayim Melech Toisif. We should be able to have next year's signing in Dava, Mamash in Yerushalayim, right outside the Beis HaMikdash from Herav Yameinu. Thank you for inviting me and thank you for listening.